my quilty friends. Are we ready for a new ruler? It's month number 4, and this month we're going to be working with flowers. This is Daisy Mae, and this ruler is going to allow you to make perfect floral designs, perfect petals. Really a lot of fun to work with. The fun thing about this ruler is it's a circle on the outer edge. So you're going to see how we can use a ruler for both the outer edge as well as the inside of the shape. We're going to be exploring some round block designs this month and learning more tips and techniques so that you'll be increasing your skills more, feeling more comfortable and confident, and seeing improvement and exploring more of your creativity. So let's get started. The first block that we're going to start with is number 10, and we're going to be using both the outer edge of the ruler and the inside shape. So the Daisy Mae ruler is really a versatile tool. I think you're going to have a lot of fun with it. Now, I have opted to permanently attach the gripping aids to the bottom of this ruler. I used rubber cement, and the reason I've chosen to attach them permanently here and not in some of the previous rulers is that I'm not using as many of the registration lines. Well, there actually aren't as many on this ruler, so whereas the others have grids and things etched onto them, this one really doesn't, so it's not necessary to keep those open, so you're not really needing to use that part of the ruler. You'll find that it's a little bit easier to use the tool with the gripping aids attached permanently, so it's entirely up to you if you decide which rulers you'd like to attach them to. So we're going to look at the crosshairs here and line them up to the center point of the stencil design that we've marked. And once we have that lined up, we're ready to begin stitching the circle. So circles can be one of the more difficult shapes to stitch. It's just a very open, gradual curve. So using a ruler to make a circle is a really, really good idea. So we have, with this ruler, the little openings that are available to you when you're using the petal shapes. But we're not going to want to bump into those as we're stitching the circle. So what's very important to remember is that you're keeping the crosshairs aligned with the center point no matter which way you rotate the ruler. All right, so let's go ahead and start stitching. I'm using one hand on the quilt to guide the fabric, and then the other hand is going to be placed on the ruler. So as you work through the process, you just want to make sure that you're continuing to keep the crosshairs lined up with the center point of the block. And then using your right hand to guide the fabric and the left hand to secure the ruler. Now as you approach the little bump in the ruler, you're going to want to rotate the ruler so that you're not getting a little bit of a hiccup in your stitch from that opening in the tool. So once you get to where you've almost reached the little opening there, you're going to take the ruler and you're going to rotate it and reposition, looking at the center point of the block design and the crosshairs etched onto the ruler. So keep rotating it, passing the little opening on the ruler. Now this is going to require a little bit of practice, so promise me that you're going to use a practice sandwich to do this. Try about 2 or 3 times. It'll take you a little bit to get the hang of it. The key is to really keep the crosshairs on the ruler lined up to the center point of the block. All right. And we're just going to keep on quilting through, leaning up against the edge of the ruler. Don't forget to stay leaning on the edge of the ruler. As you get closer to the little opening by the petal, you're just going to rotate the ruler. Okay, we came to the next opening and we're just simply rotating the ruler. As you rotate the ruler, just look at your center point again. Make sure that you've gone past the opening And now you can see that I've shifted my hands, so my right hand is now holding the ruler and my left hand is helping my fabric guide through. Okay, so just continue sewing, leaning against the edge of the ruler. Now that we've completed the circle, it's time to fill in the center of the block with our petal shapes. So there are 3 blocks in this quilt that are circular. This first one, number 10, is the only one that I have quilted the circle around using the Daisy Mae ruler. The other 2 blocks, the smaller blocks, are going to be quilted later around the edge with a different ruler that we have coming up later in the program. So we are, however, going to use the petal shapes in those other 2 blocks. Now, in this particular month, I really want to encourage you to kind of branch out a little bit with your creativity. I'm going to show you one way to do one of these blocks, and I'm hoping that you're going to really go out on your own and do something different using any configuration of the 4 shapes you have. So you have 2 pointed petals, a small and a large, and 2 rounded petals, a small and a large. So there's 4 petals that you can really have fun playing with. So I'm going to show you one idea right now. And I'm hoping that you're going to have some fun and think of some different things to do. If you want to leave some of the lines open for future rulers, that's completely fine too. Okay, so we're going to start here at the center. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to start with the pointed, smaller petal shape. And I'm going to align the point of the petal with my registration line marked by the stencil. I'm going to start at the center, put my needle down right in the center. It's very helpful to put your needle down where you want to start so that as you go to position your ruler, the quilt isn't moving around and you're not losing your space. Okay, nice wide handstands on the ruler. Remember, the oval is just another helpful cutout for you to grip with your fingers. Okay, leaning against the shape. I'm going to create half of the shape and stop at the point. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to lift just the foot, not the needle, just the foot. Take the tool out and then rotate it to the small rounded petal. Lower my foot. I'm going to finish this line with the rounded petal. Get into a nice rhythm. Come back to where you stopped and then raise your foot again. Pull the ruler out. Rotate it. Bring the pointed petal shape back in. Lower your foot again. And then position it so that you can see the line on the ruler and that it's lined up with the line that you've marked. Now finish this other half. You're going to come back to the center point of the block design and you're going to rotate your ruler. Now I'm going to rotate it so that I'm doing the vertical and the horizontal lines with this method. Okay. Again, same thing. Just do half of the shape. Once you've reached the line, you can raise your foot, pull the ruler out. This is a good time to stop and cut your threads. Now you can bring the smaller petal back in. I really like having openings right at the bottom of the shape so that you can easily come in and out of the shape. All right, now we're gonna finish the edge of this up with the rounded petal. When we get back to the starting point, we raise the foot, we bring the petal back in with the point on the end. This is the one we started with. And then we finish that shape. Once we get back to the center point, you might find that you're stopping a little bit short of the center point. If you need to reposition the ruler a little bit, just move it out of the way so that you can kind of add a few free motion stitches just to get back to the center point. That just gets you kind of back on track. You might find that to be helpful. Rotate the ruler. Look to see that your center point of your ruler is lined up with the line that you've marked. Stop at the point, raise your foot, and swap it out. The reason for doing this method is to avoid having to continually stop and start again with your threads. So I'm going to be using one continuous piece of thread. And it's actually quite fun. Once you really start getting into your rhythm and having fun with it, I think attitude is really the most important thing, is that you're enjoying yourself. Anytime you're stressed and tense, you're gonna have much less success with this technique. Okay, so once we've done the horizontal and vertical lines, we're ready to do our 45-degree angles. So again, you get to choose which petals you place where, at which angles. So now that I've done those, I'm gonna bring in the larger pointy petal shape here. So bring it on in, rotate it so that the line on the ruler is lined up with the stencil line. And this is a bigger shape, so I'm gonna go a little bit faster using a wide hand stance, but a little bit lighter grip with my fingertips on the ruler itself. What I like about this is I'm gonna get some overlap of the shapes, and that's gonna give me a secondary petal design, which is gonna add a lot of interest. Rotate the ruler again, make sure everything's lined up. Once everything is lined up, then you just work through the design. This is also a good time to place a curlicue or a free motion detail. Just go ahead and add that detail. So you're gonna do this with all 3 of your blocks, your circular blocks, using the design that you see fit. And then you have your awesome flower. Okay, so we finished 10, 11, and 12. Now we're gonna step back and do block 7. So you'll have a square within a square that you quilted in the stabilization process. Now we're gonna come in and add a petal to each of the triangles, the corner triangles. You're gonna notice a lot throughout this process that we have, we're gonna be building upon the designs. So where we might just do a little bit with the Daisy Mae ruler this month, we're gonna come back in and add extra details later. We might even revisit some of these rulers. So it's part of the process. So we're gonna bring in the large pointed petal shape here in the corner, align the etched lines on the ruler to the registration lines you've marked with your stencil, and we're just gonna quilt the 4 corners. So we're gonna move now from block 7 to block 8. And with this one, we're gonna get a little creative here. We're gonna be playing around with some angles a little bit. So I'm gonna show you some tips for working with this particular block. Now our starting point is gonna be 2 inches from the bottom. So go ahead and give yourself a little mark at that 2-inch point. That's going to be your starting point. You're then going to bring the ruler in, and we're going to start with the large petal shape, and we want all of the petals coming back to that 2-inch mark that we gave ourselves. So lower your foot. You can do a few little locking stitches just to secure the threads. I usually do about 2 or 3. Bring the ruler down so that it's touching the ruler foot, and then line up the point so that it's centered to the point of the block. Now we're going to quilt this first large petal shape with the point. We're going to come back to the center right there. This is where the angle gets a little bit tricky. We're going to turn it, and this would be a 45-degree petal coming off of the first. We want to do a 90-degree angle. So we're going to rotate our ruler like so. Now, if you feel like you're very comfortable looking at angles and just sort of eyeballing what that angle is at, then you can just go ahead and look to see that you have an approximate 90-degree angle here. So this line on your ruler would be at about a 45-degree angle to the outer section of your block. I find that it can be helpful while you're learning just to add with a little ruler, just to add that angle. So let me show you. Now it doesn't matter if it's exactly right on, but you're just going to take the ruler here and look at the 45-degree line. So I'm looking at the points here. Now you can use any type of ruler you want, and then just give yourself a little line there just for reference, just for your angle. Okay, now when you bring your ruler back and you want that 90-degree, see how I can just keep the edge line on the ruler parallel to the line that I gave myself. I'm not matching it up or being too precise there. I just want to keep it available. Now for the 45-degree angles, what we're going to do is we're going to take this shape, the large pointed shape, out, and we're going to bring in the small rounded shape. Lower our foot, adjust the ruler so that we're at a 45-degree angle. Now here, we're going to use the edge of our block to keep parallel to the etch line on the ruler so that we know that we're at that good 45-degree angle. And that's the beginning of block number 8. Well, that completes month 4. So now we're all master gardener quilters. And I'm excited to see what everybody does with their flowers. I hope that you took advantage of some creativity. And I'll see you next month for month 5 of the Ruler Mastery Series.